Hi there, I'm Giovanna Lomanto, and we are here in Yerba Buena Gardens for Litquake Out Loud, which is an amazing curation of a ton of poets that are queer, BIPOC, and also just very ingrained into the community of poetry. Today we featured Yuru Zhou, we featured Hector Son of Hector, Charisel Angelle Merced Parla, Gabriel Cortez, and Ko, who are some of my favorite poets working in the community today. We're really excited, and we had such an amazing time sitting out here on a Sunday afternoon in the beautiful gardens right across the street from the waterfall, celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. and having a day of revolutionary love and celebrating the full circle fruition of our poetry. We are super excited to be here every single year out here in Yerba Buena Gardens with Litquake Out Loud, and we hope that you'll join us next time.
Thank you so much, Giovanna. It feels very sweet to be here, and the theme Full Circle felt really resonant. I feel like in the last year I've gotten to spend a lot of time in the natural worlds with people I care a lot about, and I'm thinking about how my time writing poetry has paralleled my time writing nonfiction, which often feels like I feel like in my nonfiction, I'm often just grappling with things that don't make sense to me, and I'm like trying really hard to figure out like what's going on. And then in my poems, I feel a little bit more okay with like just being amid that uncertainty. Yeah, and in the last year, especially, I feel like I've gotten to sit amidst a lot of uncertainty that I'm really grateful to have gotten to do with the presence of many people I care about. It's also really cool to see so many friends in the crowd. Hello. Thanks for coming. Yeah, I'm going to start off with a poem that I wrote last October in clearly California of all places. Yeah, I'm very new to this, like how much context do I give to these things? So I'm just going to read it and maybe I'll think about it if I want to give additional context. So this is called Summer in October in Clear Lake, California. The objective is to fall quickly and to fall often. The soft jaw of a fish gets the last laugh when a fragment lodges into my throat. Flies flutter over to feast when I finish my soup, and I'm grateful to gods of gregarious winged things when the geese don't kick my ass. The objective is to fall quickly and to fall often, to be in relation to the spaces you depart from. A lizard, tail and all, suns on the ledge of a one stalk. A receded shoreline gives way to a field of shrubs. The marsh's one party trick is to disintegrate under my weight, only to re-solidify above my knees. The objective is to fall quickly and to fall often, to be in relation to the spaces you depart from, within the constraint of realm of possibility. I flunked out of scarecrow school once, but the hummingbird mistakes me for Minarda anyway. She glitches on my shoulder and time stutters, frozen by finiteness when my phone runs out of storage. The objective is to fall quickly and to fall often, to be in relation to the spaces you depart from, within the constraint of realm of possibility, within the form, a self-disclosure of commitments. Cool. And the context for this poem is that I went to Clear Lake, California with a couple of friends and was running along the shoreline and sort of like ended up in this area that was kind of like quicksandy, and that it was just a very harrowing moment. And yeah, I don't know. I think about that still, just this like I like literally being in this in between solid ground, liquid land thing. Yeah, among other things that were happening in October. And then the next poem I'm going to read is one that is currently on loop at the Asian Art Museum. It was a part of this exhibit that was and still is ongoing until December, in tribute to Bernice Bing, who was this incredible lesbian Chinese impressionist painter who did a lot of organizing in San Francisco, and I don't think was really well known until after her passing. And I think in many ways this year, I feel really grateful to get to almost like look to people that came before me and think of them as a kind of, I guess, like chosen literary or artistic kin. I'm really moved by how she created all this artistic infrastructure and how like her practice of making work was very intertwined with making space for people to gather. And I think that has served as like a model to me and something I hope to like follow in the footsteps of. So this is soft metric digits. Notice the knuckles, the crevices between our fingers, the sphered space held by our open fists when cups overflow. Call your mother to ask, up to where must the water rise? How many knuckles do I need to feed myself without you? With your hurricaned eye, did you see me through the spray of pixel, in the glitches between my reflection and I? Stainless steel, spurned by immigrant mother metrics, how much time till boiling point, till we ought to put out drought's flames? Take my spare half year, she'll say, crumpled from a jean jacket, our 24-bitted bodies undulating, internet as ocean. In the now-turned future, you'll pray into the password box, home gridded by CAPTCHA. Thank you. And then I also don't know like what decorum around a lot of this stuff is, and so like no pressure to applaud. I don't know. I'm like, do I like pause for I'm unsure, but thank you for listening. Thanks for being here. And I guess in continuation with, I feel like a lot of these poems have traced the last year or the year before. This one came out of a time in this sort of like, wow, I'm totally blanking on the city, but it was this historic mining town in California. And I remember at the very end of my time there, I was there with my friend Sabina, who's in the crowd. We stopped by in Chinatown, and I was so surprised to like learn of like all of the like life and history that had played out there, and to see sort of the remnant of one street of this Chinatown. And I learned that in this particular Chinatown, and possibly in others, they planted this tree called Ailanthus, and it was like tree of heaven, or like colloquially known as like tree of heaven, and it was a way for people who moved there at the time to signal to others that it was a safe place to be. And I just like, I found that to be really moving. So this is called Ailanthus at 5075 Chinatown. I came here to be flinty, bent elbows, B-sides, belly up. Tall grass in the wind calls out. For us, heaven is but a haven, a mythology of estrangement, a duet in the gentlest sense. Consider the imminence of tall grass flowing in the wind, the imminence of wind, a medium of connection between you and I. The imminence of the tall grass flowing in the wind calls out to the mythologies of our separateness, a duet in the gentlest sense. Near the adobe grocery store that withstood the flames, they planted trees of heaven in places that were safe to them. Heaven, but a haven. Cool, thank you. And then I'm going to do, also I'm realizing I don't have a sense of timing, and one more, cool. Okay, one more poem. This was a recent one. Okay, so I wrote this in October amidst this like this thing that my friend Kazumi invited me to called The Grind, where people like email a group of strangers poems that they write. And so I've just been like sending strangers like stuff that I'm writing in a given day, and it's been really interesting. I'm grateful for the space. So this one is called, as I'm scrolling through, oh my gosh, Google Drive. This one's called Craft Lesson on the Moon. Have to round out with a moon poem. A craft lesson that those I love from various distances have taught me goes, let me tell you. It's spoken emphatically, often in a time when time and its grasping seem to ghost us. We carry each other in our pockets, omnipresent in the pulses. Few other hymns I would hum on command. Moon poems in my pocket float away, propelled by pilfered pill, pulled by proximal referent. Asked questions linger unanswered, and on the cusp of our view, an obscured moon still true. On shrooms, I ask you if it might sigh open, as if soft-boiled egg wiggle apart around jelly gold core. When the subjunctive draws upon wishes, its form could cast shame, a wistful shadow. When the showing can't rhyme, telling might make space so we can weave time. Weaving time like we have, like weave like we have, like us, in present perfect, tense, and we could tread water while wondering about the life forms that might let us thrive. The internet invites an influx of inflection, so in this oceanic feeling, let me inflate a 6-word life raft. I'm thinking of you too.
Before the hills of San Francisco, I stand on a mission hospital rooftop watching smog centipede its way through the Los Angeles skyline, creeping at the feet of buildings and mountains. At 1 mile high, I see the luminescent waters of Mexica streets. Down at the Tenochtitlan, the up-and-coming neighborhood. The rich ones lived here, flattened it. The poor repurposed it, salted it. The capitalists now want it back. Everywhere, this film breathes every day, rewinding and playing a continuous loop. Conquest of barrios is nothing new. The land of the natives has always been better. Ask the priests about their missions. Ask the barber where Oakland gets its hair done. Ask why the locals haven't left yet. They'll say the East Bay gets more sun. East LA's got better food. Colonel Juarez has tortilleria spitting masa for the masses. Or is that a printing press? Food always tasted better on abuela's mesa. Mijo, come tortilla pa que te llenes. Ponle crema y sal. O sal y limón. Por lo menos sal. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Hector Son of Hector. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for this invitation. I moved here about 10 years ago. I remember sitting right over there watching Lila Downs. And this was in 2013. And I remember thinking, one day, I'm going to read poetry from that stage. That's a lie. I didn't actually think that, but I did see Lila. And I'm actually going to see her today. Not like hello. No, like she's going to play over at the Paramount Theater. So talk about full circle. I'm hoping my next full circle is that my name one day goes on the marquee at the Paramount Theater. So I'm going to just go through these poems. His skin melts into liquid and seeps through the cracks of the ground. Only the bones are left. The end. La viejita limps with the cane to the corner where the orange bus slips past her. She jumps into the dry river, floats over to the next stop. The end. The music bounces off sidewalks, slanted rooftops, and beneath the canopy of a front porch where a grandfather becomes witness to the elotero getting mugged at gunpoint just 200 feet away. His shoes cemented into the ground by a fear he thought he'd escaped. The end. It is the hottest day in recorded history. Even the sun escapes early. The end. The curly-haired girl looks up in search of the blaring sun, instead finds the edges of the moon next to a line of flashing lights carrying people to different destinations. The end. In the backdrop of a darkening sky, near one corner of the fluorescent moon, Mars presents itself as a star without twinkle, and the little girl staring endlessly realizes this vision means the sun never leaves. The end. An explosion removes the skin off the 18-year-old's face. He does not know what his mangled left hand will look like after that day, nor does the surgeon. The girlfriend is nearby, with the ophthalmologist slitting the angle of her left eyelid after a rock ricocheted to her face. And in the next room, a 50-year-old man lays with his left thigh ballooning, listening to men and women work on the wounds of the celebration, while outside, everywhere outside, the heat brings madness and excitement, and the fireworks, all the fireworks light up the sky. The end. Meanwhile, the unrelenting rain is a reminder the earth is willing to let us go. We watch and we scramble, reactionary responses as streets and buildings flood. Immobilized by the inability to choose, the earth will continue its decay, so be the consumer and consume. The destruction of order is entropy, is capitalism. Do not fear, it is just the way of the universe. Meanwhile, the persistence of broken political promises for the sake of self-preservation feeds a spirit of pessimism shared throughout the public. So be the consumer and consume. The destruction of order is entropy, is capitalism. Meanwhile, look into the face of the young woman on the floor, cuffed. Police circle the situation that is her. The public watches like an inverted parade while she remains silent, immobilized. It doesn't matter if she did it or not. You try to avoid the judgment, but you can't. You remind yourself that she isn't that. The earth will continue. She has the face of a friend you admire. Her gaze pierces like she's on the stage, above the page. You finally understand the ease of casting judgment on her. Your friend. It is just the way. Meanwhile, I watch the many ways people ask for race and immigration status. Where are you from? Immobilized. But where are you really from? By the inability to choose. What about your family? Where were you born? The earth will continue. Where were your parents born? So be the consumer. No, but like, where are you from? The destruction of order. You know what I mean? What an interesting last name. Fear. Do you speak your language? It is just the way. I catch myself doing the same thing. Meanwhile, the man lost his adolescence to the environment that built him, immobilized by the inability to choose. Big buildings on a dirt road in a smoggy city, so be the consumer and consume. The forest behind the home he was grown in will continue its decay, full of fables and fairy tales left unexplored. Meanwhile, if language is a key, then the accent of all my white teachers is a master. And as a janitor of this facility, it is just the way. I mop up my youth. Squeeze it into a bucket of the universe, full of language borrowed. The earth will continue. From every room I've swept, I practice writing my identity in many languages, the destruction of order. Each resides in the National Registry of Assimilation. A geographical migration of tongues flows through me, myself never revealed, hiding behind teeth. Meanwhile, I swallow books now, learn new feelings, forget the words, immobilized. I carry a tongue that tasted television and my mother's food. The earth will continue. Something between the WIC program, it's decay, and ESL classes in the school cafeteria, it's decay. Near the free lunches before they offered shame, it's decay. I indulge in the nostalgia, it's decay. Recall the flavor of void, it's decay. The emptiness of boy hands, consume. Pizza Hut slices I could never afford, consume. My fingertips sliding into entropy. The crevices of couch cushions, entropy. Scratching at crumbs, entropy. Searching for coins, entropy. Never finding enough. Meanwhile, put my 15 minutes under the rug, capitalism. I know what 15 pounds can do to a man. Consume 15 feet of investigation into his every action. Decay. 15 years ago, I was a different person. Entropy. How does a 15-year-old boy learn to be better? Choose. Can you squeeze 15 sins into 10 commandments? Fear. I just spent 15 seconds asking for forgiveness. Immobilized. I need more time. Meanwhile, the unrelenting rain is a reminder the earth is willing to let us go. We watch and we scramble. Reactionary responses as streets and buildings flood. I just got one more. After binge watching Carl Sagan's Cosmos, A Personal Voyage. 1. Somewhere dark enough away, I can look upon the constellations once observed by the ancestors of my ancestors. Creation myths and the drama of the gods weaved into a dotted meteorological map. But here, the city's night sky tells me a story of loneliness. So much noise, the heavens disappear. 2. A lonely comet travels the road at 3 a.m. Precious carbon cargo passing by Los Angeles, down the 5 to the 10, then the 110 up the 101, briefly the 170 back to the Sacramento 5, never to make a sacrament, instead to veer to the Oaks and thumb of St. Francis, wheel spinning on its elliptical journey. 3. All of life we know travels alone, making no impact on the trajectory or even the planet's rotation. How little we are, offspring of the sun, creatures of the crust, germs of the earth. 4. You who seek to hold on to your possession, look upon the vastness of the ocean and see only your reflection. You who can only think in terms of self, dive deep into the nucleus of your cell and note the same DNA found everywhere else. 5. We are made of dust from cosmic explosions. We are consequences of entropy. We are hydrogen tempered by oxygen. We are the evolution of nucleic acids. We are made in the image of the earth. We are its living dynamic crust. We are recipients of growing brains. We are data collectors of knowledge. We are manipulators of chaos. We are builders of information systems. We are standing before the external brain. We are between this page and the next. We are every single living being connected in this way. 6. I am not the wick nor the wax. I am the candle, a flame atop my head, flickering in and out of consciousness, day after day, such a short period, melting toward my feet. 7. Even in immobility, we travel the galaxy, accompanied by the stars. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, everybody. Happy Litquake Out Loud. So I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful to Giovanna, who is such a special, little angel of a human being on this earth. It's my first time ever reading at Litquake, and in the realm of full circle, first I'll say I was very, very nervous this morning, and it's I've done this so many times before, but every time I'm nervous. In terms of this theme of full circle, I am a poet, an educator, a human in recovery from substance misuse. And I feel like when you're in recovery, every single moment is a full circle moment, especially when you've been doing this for a long time. It's not really a circle. It's like a spiral staircase, and you're not sure if you're going up or down. And everywhere you look, it's very familiar and also terrifyingly new. So yeah, I'm going to share several poems with you today that have been written throughout these 5-6 years of my recovery journey. And I'm going to start with a poem entitled Incantation. We are meeting outside on the grass in front of the cathedral. It is very sophisticated. We are folding hands, and mine are clammy. We are bowing heads, and mine is heavy. We are saying prayers, and I pray for dry days. I can feel the wet at the back of my throat, and I can feel last night's cigarette, and it is also at the back of my throat. And how many secrets can I keep at the back of my throat where prayers wheeze and crumble into me and nothing is complete? I finished the entire bottle of whiskey. It was a prize for all of my hard work, for all of my hard, long hours, and all of the teeth in my mouth, and all of the teeth that I showed. And every time I put my teeth into my tongue to keep from cursing. I must be a very good girl. I must be. Or I wouldn't win such prizes, or I wouldn't get to bow, or I wouldn't get to show you all of these pretty teeth. And oh, grab my hands. Isn't it strange that they're so clammy? I wonder. I must be a very good, or everything wouldn't be so hot, shimmer so white. Look at how bright the blades of grass. Thank you. This next poem was the first poem in my manuscript. I studied at the University of San Francisco. I'm from Miami, Florida, and I moved here about 7 years ago to study poetry. I didn't know a single human being here, and now I have a lovely family sitting there in the back. So this poem is entitled Heavy Toward an Exit. I have been writing poems about delusions, asking questions. They're climbing onto my nerves, up the itchy bark. What if this howling grief could prepare us? And what if the wound was not knowing, which we'll never really know? We keep reminding ourselves with ink and squiggly lines, and what with waiting between margins. Now it seems most everything is blissful shatter, and punctuation makes it sharper. We heave heavy toward an exit, trapped in our own reflections. All right, so speaking of full circle moments, right? This is what I'm saying, man. It's like I'm sober right now, and I've been sober for like 3.5 months, but I've also been sober for like 3.5 months in the past, and I've been sober for 18 months, and then I've been like drunk, and I've been drinking, and I've been using and stuff, and it's just like weird to, I don't know. I swear, guys, the spiral staircase. Anyways, right now I'm sober, and every time that I get on the mic and I'm like in this space of sobriety, it just feels like such a blessing, and it feels like such a gift. And then to share these poems that come from this place of deep grief and longing and just being lost. So this is one of those poems from like the very, very beginning of my recovery journey. And it's entitled, "In the Interest of a Rogue Dead Guy." How bad is it if I want to drink beer on this hot ass day? I twirl my hair while Jacob talks about something I want to know more about. I want to know more about everything that Jacob knows and does and says, like loud things that happen in quiet towns, which makes them louder, and all the neighbors want to know what's the beeswax. But big city me is easily distracted. So sometimes I look up and wonder. Jacob doesn't like this, but he laughs, pokes at me. And nothing but fun, because Jacob knows it's all love and 2 glasses of water between us. But I am wondering if it's so bad to order a beer. We said we'd be behaving, as in we're not going to be drinking, as in let's not drink too much. As in I have to pivot around judgment and punctuate ounces and run quotes on limitation, because no one like me is comfortable being fashioned to a glass bottle and told not to drink her way out. I'm always pushing weight around. It's more entertaining than waiting for disaster. There's a whole section on disaster in your mind, I'm sure. Don't you wait there all day? But pushing weight is productive, isn't it? Breaking muscles and memories. They say all that can be rebuilt, and I can stand for that. Because I've been trying to rebuild poems from grains of sand that have gathered in my swimsuits from years ago, when I preferred the pool. Now I prefer the shoreline. Sitting itchy, the tide beating heavy makes you wonder how the day breaks. Thanks, Jacob.
All right.
This is entitled "A Thing Pinned Against Itself." And this was like, I was trying to write into form when I was at my MFA, and I like totally broke form, and like that's what we do poetry for, like break the form. A thing pinned against itself. Who took down the beads, lights, bells from our house? Look at how the light goes out, poof, from the lighthouse. Something black in revelry explodes, blows up the chimney. Mother complains, no doubt. The smoke stains the white blouse. When skies bleed, curious wonder, the darkness, no lead back home. This light, a fire, a bout of nerves, who better than myself to douse? A thing pinned against itself, like a thing that fires against itself. The self shouts itself, so close against itself, frightened, aroused. Charity, write the poem. Delivered by angel mercy, the self alone. What is I without what follows after? Balance, beam, laugh, scream, whatever light allows. All right, guys, I have, I think, 3 more poems for you. Be mindful of time here. Okay, this is entitled "Jesus Has Had Enough." This morning, Jesus is nervous. Sitting in homeroom, he complains. Cell phones are too small, and buttons are hard to push, and no one remembers the old hymns. Children in corners lick popsicles up and down. It is a blazing hot question. Are we halfway up or down this monster? No one has seen the monster's eyes. Jesus says the monster is 99% cotton bloomers being stretched over our heads. No one believes Jesus. Later, at recess, Jesus sits cross-legged down in the courtyard. We are halfway up or down, we are sure. Jesus says the edge of the world is just under the highway. No one believes. Later, on the ride home, driving through the overpass, Jesus said he's had enough. Enough of what? I ask. Enough of grieving. No one believes Jesus. All right, last couple poems here. This one's entitled, I Come From a Long Line of Pink. I come from a long line of pink and red flamingos. See them, their flame-colored feathers flapping in a wavering line as they stand in warm water. One leg tucked beneath them, only 1 foot on the ground. I used to think they couldn't fly because in captivity their wings were warped to prevent escape. I come from a long line of escaping. My great-grandmother, her 8 sisters and brothers fleeing the wet island, my whirling father and mother who conjure the heat with their dancing, and Christian vanishing white into the odorless smoke rising from his glass pipe. I come from a dotted line of sacrifice. Like my great-grandfather, remembered only in grayscale frayed memorabilia, leather-bound and tucked beneath a legacy of trying. He flew with Orville and Wilbur, though you wouldn't know his name. He came from Havana to Key West, the beloved Cuban flag wrapped around his lanky body, that lonely white star in a sea of red suicide. I wonder who kissed his eyes and if his cold hands left them terrified of flying. I come from a long line of seekers, remedies wrapped and tucked beneath the tongue were whiskey dribbles. Of doers desperate to fly, I come from a wondrous warped wrinkle, an aching line of capable flyers who may stamp their wet feet in the mud to stir up something good from the bottom. All right, guys, and I'll close you out with this poem. It's called That I Might Not Be So Advanced an Organism, That I Might Not Die Wanting. And in it, I quote my love, my favorite poet, Kaveh Akbar. And like I said, on the way over here, I was feeling really nervous. And I was like, what can I do to feel less nervous? I can pick up Kaveh Akbar's book. And I can remember that poetry is not about me. It's really not about me. It's about us and sharing this experience together. So I quote Kaveh Akbar, and I'm also singing a song, partially, from El Caribe Funk called Juanita la Chismosa. That I might not be so advanced an organism, that I might not die wanting. Post 12-hour shift, I flee the bar. A dismissal, finally, from constant temptation, not from wanting. I must have a backbone, yet a fistful of regrets claws deep into my palms, half moons. A full-length mirror waxes a hollow reflection back towards me. A moth is pressed up against the crystal, and I wonder if it sees itself. And if the mirror were to fold, then a prism, a thing pinned against itself, a thing I might like to be. The spectrum in question contains only desire in its denial. Of course, that's not true, but when saving your life, perhaps. One morning, while out for a run down Mandela, I think to myself, I wish I could relive those early days. Like that night I went and changed my life at some random party right here in West Oakland. Another day one. I would list so much wisdom if you asked me how I did it, but the truth, I have no idea, guys. Call it grace, call it karma, call it having ancestors who would salsa backwards over scorching coals to redeem me, singing. Vengo pegado con agua de Maya, pa que te cura Juanita de eso que te hace mal. Somewhere between desire and denial, I began the slow unwinding. Through guts and sinew, the smell of iron and chemical fumes, and even when my tongue went numb, the first drink, the best. Reminder, what the fuck am I actually doing? Then ethanol grinds through tortured synapses. We aren't used to this language for liquid. A soft thing hard, tenacity and softness, softness and denial. But every time I move through a crowded room without pouring oblivion, I am drawing nearer to a certain prism, a range of light that would collapse and expand to make my life finally an ensemble of limbs and ligaments shining up towards a rendering in which sober does not mean stone cold, and white knuckles regain color. Sunshine so deep in our stores that we'd beam for future ancestors to find in the path beneath their tired feet abject permanence. In moonlight or pitch darkness singing, que yo vengo pegado con el agua y el maya pa que se te quite, Juanita, eso que a ti te mortifica. And then I write an M dash replacing the ellipsis. A certain fate threatens the spectrum. It's so unsettling to feel anything but good. So Shakespearean sorrows are quelled by a warm pool in my throat, only to reemerge in the morning. If only I had said no. Then blue mountains, Arctic cold in my bedside drawer so long would not have knocked around. A symphony of empty indulgence, shame. And I think of my bisabuelo, Agustín Parla Orduña, primer piloto cubano, hijo de la isla, luchador. Y yo luchadora cuando me meto bajo la ducha para olvidarme de este ser y vergüenza. Isn't language then a spectrum? These days, the bar keeps lowering. These days, the bar is a limbo stick. These days, we are all just waddling, bent backwards, suspended in open air, trying not to topple over. I never wanted to be a vertebrae. I wish I could just snap. Thanks, guys.
Okay, hi. As you have been warned, my name is Jen. It's nice to be here. I do want to maybe take a pause. We've been going for a while, and I think I probably need it too. I'm inspired. My roommate Casey's here, and we led something recently where she just opened with some like guided breath, and maybe kind of want to try. So I guess in your own time, if you want to settle into where you're sitting, see where your posture's at, and then like maybe lower, like close your eyes if you're comfortable, and just take a breath in, take inventory. There's the water right next to us, just been there the whole day. Breathe out, breathe in, let go of what it took to get here. I know traffic is scary, parking is scary, reward yourself for being at this time. Breathe out. And breathe in. Think about, just scan the memory, the words you're clinging on to, things that are sticking with you so far. Trust that you'll remember them when you need them. And you are doing all you can. And breathe out. This first poem is an extension of the meditation, so no pressure to join me in the visible world, but I will begin. Breathe in. In the room, there are no forms, only textures. Gliding beneath the surface, teeming in the periphery. Breathe out. Tilt to the sun like it was meant for you. It was. Coat the eyelids, adjust the spine. When you're free, you ought to tell me what it is we wind towards. Breathe in. There's a place for each of us, I hear. See, we're formless too. In my dreams, I confess there is no plot, only pulsing. I came to ask you what that means. The heart's incessant beating that in my cruelty I make explain. Breathe out, like a gift. Every lung's expulsion coin. Gold and gleaming reckless trade. Breathe in. And what if? Breathe out. The memory cannot save us, and the dust is all we have. Breathe in. We cannot remember. Breathe out. What to be for each other. So we've adorned ourselves in gold. Breathe in. Breathe out. What to say of all my empty, glinting gleam of flesh intention. Breathe in. Breathe out. Might I fit my formless next to yours? Breathe in. Breathe out. Might I make us something to return to in my ruthless search for meaning? Breathe in. Breathe out. And when I come back empty-handed, breathe in. Breathe out. Can I stay? That is an open. Thanks. We can all open our eyes. Full circle. Everything I'm reading today is in this little packet of paper that is distributed over there. I think assembling your old work is like a really strange process. You have to deal with who you've been, and I also actually tried to quote Kava in this, so I was really excited about that. I think, I feel like I am thinking lots these days about seeing the way that you were loved and cared for, but like from afar. Like now I live over here and my family is there. And there is like a very human devastation to that distance. The first thing I wanted to read was something I wrote about where I grew up. And this is Swallowtail Court. My memory is warm and glinting and catches light in places I never expect. Wrestling, that poor mattress, elbow skin between my teeth. Dancing was dancing, but also flying, trying to touch the ceiling, bending the knees deep. The way the springs sound on the way back up. How we'd race to the door and the way rubber shoes echo on plaster. Watercolor blooming into puddling paper. Popsicles and otter pops and washable marker, bruising rainbows onto string cheese. Loose teeth. Forts. Dell computer boxes. Chocolate milk and hopscotch on kitchen tile. Milk in harsh swallows. Cold. White shanky bread pressed on the roof of my mouth. Passing to the others like this is how we provide for each other. This is how the body survives. Ponytails puffing against charmed hair ties, rattling like hard candies. Waking up before dawn for the first day of school and eating Lucky Charms in total silence. My mom pouring the milk, softening for me the quiet of change, knowing I would find that cruel. Pressing my forehead against the window screen, watching the bikes race. Sunny, dusty, incoming fog. Nothing else smells like that. I slept on the treadmill once because I could, because I wanted to be somewhere the love could find. I used the blanket with the pink teddy bear and it left rubber marks in my cheek. The downstairs neighbors got mad at us once, do you remember? And we found out they were cops and I was afraid. Going to the balcony to throw paper airplanes to Dad. The bush below littered with printed sheets and things that rhyme with blue and everything I'm still trying to say. Worried I'll stop trying. Worried I'll forget. The mountain caught fire lots, tracing the hallway in pitch black, Dad with a flashlight on the other side. It is okay, they said, but the mountain is on fire, watching it burn with our neighbors and talking about moving. We are saying this next to the slide and by the concrete with the snails. I don't want to move, but the mountain is burning. Something there on urgency and change, isn't it always? I want to color us a whole world of wavering hearts and ink that never dries. The wavering isn't hesitance so much as a pulsing, and we'll pulse too. We're dancing like the sky could contain it, but then it does. When we jump, we'll push through the ceiling and the clouds hold us, blanketed and firm, bright blooming ours and infinite. Or maybe finite, but unafraid. I love you, do you believe me? I didn't have to ask. It's very long, sorry. As Giovanna hinted, we did meet in a writing workshop. And there's Faye's group here, but the second of which was by Jen Hoffer. And they really introduced the idea of precarity as a place to stand, which is a sentence I've like latched onto with all of me. I think a lot about trying to hold on to or measure this care we have for each other even after it's like way too late or like not even here yet, or I don't know. So that circulates in the work, but this one I wrote after a friend was very excited to split a pomegranate with me, and I thought it was so soft and human. So this is sharing a pomegranate at the end of November. A new day approaches, but first we peel the fruit back like fiery fleshy unfurling, kernels falling down in gemmed superstition, scattering the floor bloodied, filling the bowl. You eat them in menacing spoonfuls, crushing luck between the teeth while our hands wind towards the sun, watching what light does to skin. We speak in purpled tongues, comparing the night's visions, which ones we ought to call dreams, which ones we ought to call dreams. Redded lips where the acid clings like tiger balm rouge, making the skin sparkle terrors. We're all catching sunlight. I tell you, my 20s are greedy for well-spent nostalgia, pursed lips pecking into sticky palmfuls, seed by seed. I think to tell you about the homes we only recognize in memory, but now the sun is high. And if I squint my eyes already, I see your shape, loose form, familiar, bending with the light, casting lovely shadows on the accruing horizon. Okay, I think I have time for a little bit more. I think this was written after it was a very intense day in the United States, I think. This was written in like September of last year. It's coming of age prayer. 23 years old as, do you believe in God? I mean, sorry, how are you? I mean, I know you don't. I mean, sometimes I think I still do. As mosquito bites outside graduate housing. My dad sends me a text and says, don't let this get you all depressed. I think he means to remember to pray about it, the it being me, or today's cruelty, or the hurricanes, or the death, or the sickness, or. Which I think is to say, the sadness stays, but also it is God. Dear God, I am getting fresh bug bites under a sky so impossibly blue, taunting me like this is why you're alive. There's a lot I like in this life, but I keep wanting them to save me. Something about how desire spoils. Sometimes I think maybe I've only mixed up the words, mistaken sadness for the thing beating in each of us, and I'm 23 years old, as maybe love was never about deserving. I say this to mean exhaust, pinch the cheeks like what are you so tired for? I'm thinking about love and time and love and time and 23 years old as take all the love in your life and see where it leads you or leaves you, as in my knowing of you leaves me stranded, as the first foggy day of September. I remember that too, and sometimes love feels like memory, as in being 23 and counting my things worth forgetting, as you, with a candle between your hands, telling me about fire against skin. I watch it catch the dew of your eyelids and clasp glowing sun shadows, and we call it vision. Today, I'm 23, and I'm experimenting with joy as recognition. I'm sorry, am I doing it again? Dear God, the parts of me that believe in you stared right at the sun today, blinded so it's prayer. They wanted eyelids lit on fire, they wanted to ask what words to use, and they want to bargain all they have. So here, I propose my trade, fistful of memory, something soft and blue and stranded, waving and frantic and crumbling in your wake. Okay, I think one more. I wanted to end with this one. Sometimes, like I see, like my mom or like a friend holding flowers, and I feel like it's just like I wish I gave those to you. You know, I think that's like a feeling I've been having a lot. So this last one is just called Dahlia. And yeah, okay. Baby, look up. There in the distance, the kitchen window, the light just so. Afternoon sun and full of mercy. Someone you love is holding flowers. Armful, petals, soft thrush and thrumming, making itself known. They are the kind I'd wish I'd handed you. Here, this small something, soft and delicate and terrible and crumbling in our hands. Look at the stems leaning against each other, blush and waver, beating things, dancing to our little whims. They are tucking the leaves, unbanding the waist, maneuvering forearms about each nascent thorn. One bloom falls against the shoulder, shifted weights, tilted lights. I know, it's draining. This sun-filled room, it's simmer glowing. It is as we suspected and the brightest we will ever be. But keep your gaze with me a while, before the curtains catch us leaning. And there, pausing for something, tilting toward, any second now, they'll see us. Okay, thank you for your time.
Like Gio said, I'm in a deep season of love. Repeat after me, say love. I got married now. And it's been a long season. We've been together 12 years. It's going to be 12 years in November. So it's been really sweet getting to be at the beginning of some things too. And speaking of beginnings, that's how I want to start this set. So this poem is called I'm Going to Get Married. I'm going to get married, y'all. I'm gonna rock an olive green 3-piece vintage suit so fresh, I'm gonna make my mama cry. I'm going to make a theater stage holy. I'm going to finally see my brothers and sisters in the same room for the first time in my life. I'm going to lose it. Then I'm going to find it. It being us in a little blue car with tin cans dragged behind us like in those old-timey TV shows. I'm going to level with you. We might not do the tin can thing, but bless whoever started that tradition to let everyone know as loudly as possible that yes, there is a such thing as a black and white movie ending. I'm going to call it a book. I'm going to call it miscegenation in the era of Clarence Thomas. I'm going to call it a sunset. And then I'm going to ride off into it. If you want more love, say love. This poem is called We Did Everything Out of Order. Our first wedding was in 2011. 1 decade before she knelt on that beach and poemed us betrothed. A full PhD's tenure before same-sex marriage is legalized in the United States. Only 20 years after the final law against interracial marriage is struck down. I was 20 and you were 19. And we danced and flirted beneath a rainbow-colored sky while our homies kissed and said their vows despite a country that still declared their love contraband. In 2013, we moved in with nobody's permission but our own. What heathens. In our studio apartment, making church of the kitchen floor, where siblings and friends made their beds and spoke story until sunrise. Where we squeezed our knees and elbows into a shower stall built for one. Where singing lessons made the bedroom Zoom call a form of praise and worship, and online therapy baptized the kitchen into a vow of silence. If you asked my mama, she'd call this living in sin. If you asked my mama, she would tell you how she almost took the ring off her own finger to officiate this union herself. Tasha proposed with a gold wedding band on the beach of our 10-year anniversary. So what do we exchange here, if not a small, untarnished star, as if to say, I hope to orbit you even when the sun refuses to rise? If not a seafoam dress and a kelp green suit to remember us when all the oceans dry to dust? How do we learn to begin at the end? The same way wedding vows howl drunk at the heels of funerals. There are people that should be here that are not here. But that doesn't mean they didn't walk us down the aisle, throw rice behind us after every family dinner. They gave us away a long time ago. Alive in our smiles, they are speaking at our wedding right now. We did everything out of order, and praise us for it. This home we made, these children we raised, this life we walked through backwards. 33, going on 12, going on day 1. How our days grow longer and less filled with smoke. So this next poem deals with smoke. And it is right here. It's called Smoke and Rain in the Bay at the Turn of the Decade. And it's after Moms for Housing, which if you're unfamiliar, they are a really awesome and necessary outfit based in Oakland that is doing really necessary work, trying to make sure that our peoples are housed, have the access to that basic human right. And it goes like this. When the kids ask me what I did, when the world was billowing enough smoke to circumnavigate the planet and return to kiss the still burning fire that conjured it, I will say I lived outside a city. I will say I lived outside a city with clean air scratched into the sides of screaming buses, heavy starlings that reached towards a wire ceiling sky with 2 bone wings trolling behind them, that sparked every now and then, dropping ashes on the folks' public transportation lines were built to displace. The T-train stays running 30 minutes late. My theory of why the Bayview is still black is also my theory of how to preserve a soul in the age of capitalism. Call it colored people time. And it required I show up last to the meeting with my hair coiffed to the side and all my family texted back. This morning, my alarm clock adjusted itself 3 times in disagreement with my ambitions the night before. The curtains don't want to open today. The deadbolt gripped the door frame the way a mother might hold their child when tanks come rolling through the hood aiming AR-15s behind eviction notices. Last night, it rained, which means 1, we reset the countdown on when hillside mansions once again go up in flames. And 2, the mattress, the couch cushion, the printer box, the luggage case, the bookshelf, the books, the blankets, the portable heater, the styrofoam cups of dehydrated noodles, the Fisher-Price playset, the children, the stroller, and the black mothers that pushed them, thrown out their house onto the sidewalk like a civil rights activist at a rights-only counter, they got rained on too. And still, they showed up to the rally. Babies hoisted upon the waist, crying, trying to pronounce a word like reparations. I'm going to share 2 poems that actually were not written by me, but I think are really necessary to bring into the space, considering the conditions of the world. And in the spirit of full circle as well, I want to make a circle with that beautiful waterfall that is right next to us, which is dedicated to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., one of my favorite writers, speakers, activists of all time. And I want to make a circle with a place that he made circle with, which was Palestine. As another site of indigenous resistance to military, economic, and colonial settler colonialism. I want to make a circle between that colonization and capitalism and the waters that rise and drown my people's people with the smoke that fills our lungs every year, even here. I want to make a full circle for us to stand in together to witness our power and move that power to end human-made cycles of violence. And with that, I'm really excited to get to share this poem that came to me by way of someone that I'm in a full circle moment with. Everyone say hi, Nina. That's Nina. We first met at a poetry show, she reminded me, in this very city. And because of, the world, when we found ourselves online trying to figure out how do we gather and circle together, we found ourselves in that space and like Root Slam online writing workshops. But this is my friend who's often across the world from me. And this morning, in thinking about the world and what's necessary, they forwarded a poem to me, which got me looking up a poet. So I was like reading poems on BART on the way here and found another poem by this poet who is actually, their name is Mossab Abu Toha, Mossab Abu Toha, who was published at City Lights bookstore, which is, if you don't know City Lights, you're sleeping. It's one of the best bookstores out here, and published really necessary voices. But this poem, which I believe is published in that book, is called What a Gazan Should Do During an Israeli Airstrike. Turn off the lights in every room. Sit in the inner hallway of the house, away from the windows. Stay away from the stove. Stop thinking about making black tea. Have a bottle of water nearby, big enough to cool down children's fear. Get a child's kindergarten backpack and stuff tiny toys and whatever amount of money there is, and the ID cards, and photos of late grandparents, aunts, or uncles, and the grandparents' wedding invitation that's been kept for a long time. And if you are a farmer, you should put some strawberry seeds in one pocket and some soil from the balcony flower pot in the other, and hold on tight to whatever number there was on the cake from the last birthday. Can we snap it up for the incredible poet? Thank you, thank you. And another one of my favorite poets who I think reminds me, like, I feel like the duty of the poet is to both name what's urgent in the space, right? So we can like, Lord, I see the thing, and let's move some power behind it. And another duty of the poet is to imagine possibility. So another one of my favorite poets named Safia Ahilo has this poem called Self-Portrait with No Flag, which I'm excited to read with you right now. I pledge allegiance to my homies, to my mother's small and cool palms, to the gap between my brother's 2 front teeth, and to my grandmother's good brown hands, good, strong, brown hands gathering my bare feet in her lap. I pledge allegiance to the group text. I pledge allegiance to laughter and to all the boys I have a crush on. I pledge allegiance to my spearmint plant, to my split ends, to my grandfather's brain and gray left eye. I come from 2 failed countries, and I give them back. I pledge allegiance to no land, no border, cut by force to draw blood. I pledge allegiance to no government, no collection of white men carving up the map with their pens. I choose the table at the Waffle House, with all my loved ones crowded into the booth. I choose the shining dark of our faces through a thin sheet of smoke, glowing dark of our faces, slick under layers of sweat. I choose the world where we make with our living refuses to be unmade by what surrounds us. I choose us gathered at the lakeside, the light glinting off the water in our laughing teeth, and along the living dark of our hair. And this is my only country. May I share one more poem with y'all? Okay. This one's by me. Every space that I move into, I'm trying to make a practice of bringing, my peoples into the space. Shouts to Panama, a place that's where my mother was born, which I'm very excited to finally get to visit next year. And this full circle moment is a big year of transitions. Got married, also had a lot of grief. I lost my grandfather, who was my closest connection to Panama. When I looked at him, he told me everything I knew in his house. So I want to share this poem in celebration of him, in celebration of all of us who have at least one parent who was not born in the United States, who was born in the rest of the world. And also in celebration of anybody who has a family member with at least one gold tooth. This is for you. And is that Fox taking pictures? What? Hi! Fox is a really dope photographer. I love you. Some couples wear matching clothes. My grandparents had matching gold teeth. 14 karat gold with a star in the middle, so when they smiled or spoke, their gold teeth seemed to wave like two halves of the Panamanian flag blowing in the wind. My grandparents are Afro-Latino. You know this from the way their kinky hair stains at attention over the dark cocoa of their skin and the conjuring that happens whenever they open their mouths. Whether it's the way the Caribbean accents spill from tongues like sliced mangoes and salsa, or the way gold flickers from between their thick moreno lips like a slow-setting sun, my grandparents aren't from around here. But us Afro-Latinos been here since the start. In the Caribbean, where African slaves flowed easy as Spanish doubloons, where they hacked our limbs like stalks of sugarcane but couldn't make us forget how to run. In Panama, where our bodies lay buried beneath the canal like a mass grave. In the US, where we found ghetto and military and melting pot, where elementary schools made our mothers wrench the accents out their mouths like pulling teeth because there's something especially dangerous about black folks that can talk shit in a language you can't understand. Whether it is Spanish or French or Yoruba or the African dialect stripped from our memory, we have been here, always leaving pieces of ourselves behind, toes and tendons buried beneath the sand every time we must uproot our legs and teach them to swim again. But we are adept at replacing the lost. Ain't that the blues? Ain't that cumbia and gumbo, voodoo, santeria, hip-hop, indigo spirituals, Creole, patois, and neighborhood slang we steal from the master's kitchen, baptize it in grease and resurrected soul food like we raise a hoopty from the dead, sit it on rims and bump the bass till the plates fall off. Sometimes we even paint our missing teeth gold. We all try to fill the gaps given to us. Even after addiction, immigration, and cancer left holes the size of grapefruits in their jaws, my grandparents still smile like pirates, gold shining between their lips like stars in the night sky, a checkerboard of ivory and gold. So every time I see an elder with a mouth shining like the sun, I can't help but smile because I know they're healing one golden tooth at a time. Thank you.